There's nothing worse than getting your friend hyped up, trying to get them into MMA, trying to watch a card. You give them a pay-per-view and go, this is going to be a sick fight. The main event is between blank and blank. It's a title fight, and it's going to be amazing, all right? And the feeling when it's an awful fight and they start looking at their phone in round two and they start asking, when is this over? This is the last fight, right? Is the worst feeling you could ever possibly have. So today, I'm going to make sure you know who to make sure your casual friends watch, and hopefully they become hardcore MMA fans, all right? There's a lot of champions, 8 male champions. I'm going to go over every single male champion and give you the least entertaining male champion, the ones that you may want to avoid hyping up and telling your friends, oh, you got to watch this fight, and the most entertaining male champion, telling them, hey, watch this dude fight. It will change your life, all right? A lot of fighters. We're going to have to go over every single one of the male champions, like I said. Now, just because they are not the most entertaining does not mean they're the least skillful, all right? Honestly, the quite opposite could be said, possibly. The least skillful, maybe they're more entertaining. This is not these guys are awful, you know? This is just for a casual viewpoint. What are they going to enjoy? What's going to get them back into the UFC? And what's going to get them hyped and entertained? And it's going to fulfill that hype. It's going to live up to that hype. So first off, sorry to do it, pal. First of all, the requirements for this, the kind of criteria I'm going on, is so far the title fights that they've had. So if they've moved up the division and they're at a different weight class, I'm only going to go off of the title fights they've had at that weight class. All right, so that's why the least entertaining, the most least entertaining UFC champion currently is going to be Islam Makhachev. All right. Again, this guy, 17 fight win streak, 5 wins by knockout, 13 by submission. He has 18 finishes. Islam Makhachev is normally not a boring fighter, but after these last 2 fights, you cannot deny he's being a bit of a boring guy. 50 minutes of boring fights. You know, the head kick against Ian Gary, sure. But if we're just being honest with ourselves, and for the UFC casual, they're not really going to find Islam Makhachev too entertaining. Again, maybe later against a Prates or Morales, he could bump up to like, you know, the 3rd or 4th least entertaining. But right now, you're going to have Islam Makhachev down here. He is a decent character beforehand, so that kind of helps. Again, beforehand and afterhand, are they going to hype up the fight, and do they live up to the hype? Islam can kind of hype up the fight, but he doesn't really live up to it. So that's why Islam's going to be ranked number 8 in terms of entertainment. Again, great fighter. He's the GOAT. Not too entertaining, though. Not recently, okay? Don't hate me on this. He just hasn't been too entertaining. Now, you're going to go, how is this guy not last place? But Sean Strickland, if you go off of pure title fights alone, Adesanya, Duplessis, 1 and 2, and Chimaev, those were all decently entertaining. All of them went to a decision, but all of them were super, super fun. The Adesanya fight where he got his belt was kind of a whiplash for a lot of people. You know, it was kind of what is happening. It's like we were living in a bizarre world. Same for the Chimaev fight. The first Duplessis fight was very close and honestly kind of fun. The second Duplessis fight, he was getting beat up the whole fight, you know? Strickland has some decently fun fights, but he doesn't really, he hypes it up a lot. And then it doesn't always perform. That's why he's ranked number 7. He hypes it up a lot. He's had a lot of fun fights technically, looking back at it in terms of being surprised and, you know, not really seeing how the outcome could go. Islam Makhachev, you can kind of tell the outcome at this point, you know. You can tell he's going to be holding wrist control up against the cage for at least 1 round, you know. That's just how it is. But Strickland, you know, you don't really know what's happening. He's either going to get beat up, he's going to beat that guy up, or it's going to be a close split decision, you know. No in between. No in between. He just, maybe cut this. Okay, no, we're back. We're back with my lighting. No in between. He is super entertaining when they make him. You kind of have to make Strickland entertaining. The same thing with Islam at lightweight, but again, we're not going to count Islam's lightweight title fights because he's at welterweight now. This is off of pure champions, all right? So Strickland, again, he's going to have a fun build-up. You know, he will hype up your friend a lot. He's going to make your friend go, dude, this guy's going to fight sick. And you go, just wait. Just wait for those jabs and teeps. Very boring once you get to the actual fight. But he builds it up so high and he drops you so low. It's at least better than building up decently high like Islam and then, like, it's like like that roller coaster from SpongeBob, where it's like the baby roller coaster where they just go up and then it's just down. Strickland at least is like, he brings you up, and then it's like a tiny little down. You know, Islam is just, now we're back down. Strickland, you at least have a ride on the way there, you know, and you're wondering what is he going to say. Islam's going to go, shut up, brother. You know, that's Islam's kind of, that's the edge of his trash talk. Strickland's a little bit more creative, but he is still boring. He is still boring. So he's going to be ranked number 7th. Moving up, I can't let this guy get away. Honestly, he could be below Strickland at this point. Because Volkanovski, dude, the kid's kind of boring. This recent title run is kind of boring. Lopez 1 and 2 was boring. Now, you can say it's the UFC's fault for giving him like a power puncher where he's got to be very careful, and Lopez just kind of follows him around like a lost dog. Like, he isn't really too advanced technical-wise, but still, both Lopez's fights were boring. The Ilia Topuria fight, he got knocked out, so that was fun. The Islam first fight, but that was at lightweight. That doesn't count to this featherweight belt. The Holloway fights, never seen them, if I'm being honest. Just recently, I don't think you're gonna have a super hyped up fight. First of all, he's a disrespectful guy. A lot of these new fighters are respectful. Hey man, brother, I love you, man. It's a good fight. He's a good fighter. Like, we're doing this respectful stuff. We need to be more like Joshua Van. We'll get to Joshua Van in a little bit. But yeah, Volk's too respectful. He's too old. He's going to be boring. Like, this Evloev fight's probably going to be boring. He's probably going to 50-45 Evloev. If I'm being honest. Maybe TKO's Evloev. But if I'm going to be honest, I'm not too hyped up for this Evloev fight. It's good legacy. He is number 2 in terms of the GOAT conversation. It's Islam, then Volk. So maybe Volk beats Evloev and gets a couple more fights and gets the lightweight belt. Well, maybe we'll have a conversation. But in terms of entertainment, he hasn't been the most entertaining recently. I would not recommend you to be like, UFC 333, I think, is Volk. I think it's Volk. Don't quote me on that. Don't say, don't put all the money on it. I think it's Volkanovski, though. Let's load more, because it's not in the first thing. 333 is Volk Evloev with the co-main of Yan Marab. All right. So, again, that is a decent fight because of the co-main, which you'll see where I put Yan. But for a main event, like, if he was just by himself, I would not really hype up your friend going, you got to watch this guy. I'd maybe, save it for somebody else. But, he's the 3rd most boring. It's not too bad, not too, it's just, he doesn't have power. He is technically sound. Again, he's very, very skilled, very, very skilled. All these guys are super skilled and technical. And if you know what you're doing, if you know your stuff, you can really appreciate it. But again, this is for casuals. This is casual entertainment. This is my first time watching a UFC card. It's a pay-per-view. What am I going to see? You're not going to want to show your friend Alexander Volkanovski dancing at range and do a pendulum low kick and then maybe popping that jab and maybe scooching around he looks like a teddy bear when he scooches around. Him and Marab, they do the little sideways scooch. They kind of look like a teddy bear. It's just not going to be the best introduction to MMA, to UFC. Whereas these top guys, this is the bottom 4. So the next guy, Carlos Ulberg, get out of my face. Dude's a coward, doesn't vacate the belt. That's something else, though. In terms of entertainment, if I'm being honest, he just got the belt off of Yuri. And it's hard to say if that was entertaining, all right? Injures himself, knocks out Yuri. That is technically entertaining, but it was a big disappointment. Big hyped up, match. Oh my goodness, this Yuri guy is a samurai, and this Carlos Ulberg guy is very dangerous on the counter. And then that happened. So I'm not going to credit him for that, but if you look at his last 3 fights, arguably robbed Jan Blachowicz. Navajo Sterling knocked him out better. I picked Navajo Sterling to beat Blachowicz anyways. Arguably lost to Volkan Ozdemir. KO'd Reyes. It was like a round 1 where like he made Reyes run into, like, if you don't run into Ulberg's lead hook, he is just gonna sit there. He will sit there and wait on you. He won't really push anything. He'll just low kick at range until you have to rush towards him, and then he'll hit you with that lead hook. He does, like I said, he doesn't really push a pace, doesn't really do anything too crazy until you come towards him. Again, depending on a matchup, he could be very, very boring. I think Ankalaev, we'd probably be very boring against Ankalaev. Probably pretty boring against Ankalaev. Maybe Costa, they're low kicking at range, and they're kind of having a firefight at range. Don't really see it that well, going too well either. I think unless you are an idiot that runs into Ulberg's range into his range, it's going to be boring. So that's why Ulberg is on number 4. Again, I can't fault him too much in terms of title fights. Again, the criteria is I'm going off of pure title fights in this weight division. Ulberg's only had 1 where it's kind of a fluky thing, so I'm ranking him on the bottom half of the entertaining side. He could be fun, but also just going off his last couple fights, which have been boring. I'm gonna rank him bottom 4. I could have ranked him last place, but I'm putting some respect, all right? Even though if he doesn't vacate the belt soon, I will be disrespecting Goldberg a lot, and there will be a video about it. But we move on to the upper 4. This is the 4 most entertaining fighters, all right? 4 entertaining fighters that you know are gonna have some. You're gonna have a blast. You're gonna be on the edge of your seat, and they're gonna make you. They're gonna make it worth it. They're gonna make it worth the wait, worth the hype, worth the build up, and even worth the money. All right. So first up, we have Tom Aspinall. Again, last fight, Shogun poked him in the eye, but before that, Blades 1-2 puts him out cold. You know, all of his fights within a minute, within one round. You can't tell me this guy isn't entertaining. You know. Non-stop finishes, 12 wins by knockout, 3 by submission, 14 first-round finishes, and he has 15 wins. He's gone into the second round once in the UFC. Insane stuff. Insane stuff. This guy is a killer, all right? First-round killer. Now, again, we don't know about his cardio, but again, it's hard to go off his title fights. He's had that Blades. He had that Pavlovich. Both, he just puts them away in a second. Basically, 1 second, he puts them both out cold. I'm going to put some respect on Tom Aspinall. John Jones, he was so entertaining. John Jones had to run away from him, dude. John Jones said, bye, dude, bye. So I'm going to put some respect on Tom Aspinall. I'm going to have him ranked as the 4th most entertaining champion currently, all right? Again, this is someone he'd probably be a good co-main, or I guess he'd have to be main event. I don't like how we do the heavier you are, the higher you have to be ranked. I think the more entertaining you are, the higher you should be ranked. I think UFC 333 should be Volkanovski Evloev as the co-main and Yan Marab 3 as the main event, but you know, that's just me. Anyways, I think again, he's a sick card. You know, you can pair him up with kind of a more boring fighter. Like you could pair him up with a Strickland co-main, an Islam co-main, a Ober co-main, and he'd elevate it and kind of make it even, kind of make it worth that weight. So let's move on to the 3rd most entertaining fighter as a UFC champion. Peter Yan! In the words of Sean O'Malley. Peter Yan, if you just look at that Marab fight, that absolute destruction that was the Marab fight, it was so entertaining. It was so entertaining. If you look at any other fight of him, you know, the first Marab fight doesn't count. Again, this is title fights only. You have the Aljamain Sterling 1 demolition, where he was just destroying him, making him look silly. Kind of, you know, a little broing. Aljamain Sterling. Then you have the rematch where it was a very close fight. You know, he does lose, but then, you know, you also have the Sandhagen interim belt where he's doing that spinning back fist into a follow through, and he's just so entertaining, dude. And then the Yan fight or the Aldo fight where he KOs him in the 5th, and it's a war back and forth. You can't tell me Yan is not entertaining. I know he doesn't have many finishes, but finishes don't mean entertainment. All right, I'm just going to let you know. I'm not going to go off of who gets more finishes. I'm not doing that. I'm going off of what's more entertaining. And decisions can be entertaining, all right? Strickland, take a lesson, you know? Learn a lesson or two from Yan. Doesn't have any finishes. Again, you don't need finishes to be entertaining. You can just be sick and good at fighting, and I'll find that entertaining. Again, and he's good in a terms of he's so dynamic and stuff where a casual can notice it. He's not as good as Islam in terms of pure technique and pure skill set. He is very technical. Again, I'm not saying he's not technical, but I'm saying in terms of he mixes up the martial arts so well. Whereas Islam's so dominant in the grappling, you're only going to see one part of MMA. Whereas Yan, you're going to see multiple parts. You're going to see the striking. You're going to see Muay Thai. You're going to see some boxing. You're going to see some low kicks. You're going to see some grappling. You're going to see some clinch work. You're going to see some Asotagari trips, you know? Stuff like that. You're going to see submission threats. You're going to see ground and pound, nasty ground and pound. You're going to get all of that with Yan, all right? Peter Yan, you're going to get all of that. All right, so I'm going to have to give him rank number 3. Again, it was tough. These top 3 guys were tough to do. I had to, you know, separate them some way. But Yan, again, sick fight. He's making this Volkanovski Evloev card so much better because of how sick that is, dude. It's so sick. It's so sick. You know, again, if it was Volkanovski Evloev, I would not be that hyped. But it's Volkanovski Evloev with the co-main of Yan Marab 3. That's a sick fight. So Yan, 3rd most entertaining male champion. We're not doing female champions. I'm just letting you know. They're always going to be co-main for a reason. Unless you're UFC 320, 332. In which case we may have an issue there. But anyways, moving on to the 2nd most entertaining UFC champion, male champion. It's Justin Gaethje, dude. It's Justin Gaethje. I know his title fights are like him beating Topuria, him losing to Oliveira, and him losing to Habib. But those fights are still sick, dude. The Topuria fight, the beating he takes, he gets basically KO'd to the body. He gets TKO'd to the body. Topuria doesn't follow up the right way, doesn't walk off, so Gaethje survives. But still, the beating that he takes or he gives to people, the kind of back and forth, it's always going to be a back and forth Gaethje. He's never going to dominate somebody, unless it's Pimlet. But even then, that Pimlet fight, that interim belt, that Pimlet fight was that interim? No, it wasn't. It wasn't interim, was it? Can't remember if it was interim. It was interim. It was. I'm an idiot. It was the interim title. So that counts as his lineage. The Pimlet fight, he was still having trouble. Like, he'll always go through a moment where you're like, oh, Gaethje's going to lose. And then he fires back, dude. I was talking about the SpongeBob roller coaster where they're scared and it goes, oh. Gaethje is like a loop-de-loop after, upside down for like 3 hours. You're upside down on his roller coaster, and then you're sideways, and then you split apart, and then you're back together, and then they set you on fire for a little bit, and then they cool you off, and it's just a crazy ride that Gaethje put you through. Crazy ride. 21 wins by knockout, 9 first-round finishes. I think every single fight he's had in the UFC has had a performance bonus. Even the Holloway fight where he got demolished, but that's BMF. Does that count? Even in if you count BMF titles, head kick KOs Dustin, goes to war with Holloway, gets beat up, but he got KO'd. He got KO'd iconically. You know what I'm saying? Like Gaethje, if you go, hey, Justin Gaethje's on this card to your casual friend, they're probably gonna go, oh, I know that guy. That guy's sick. They probably are gonna do that. If not, you're going to go, hey, this guy's sick, and then he's going to fight like he has 3 minutes left to live. That's how Gaethje fights. They go, hey, if you don't throw a million punches with all full power, with full power, no regrets, you're going to die in 3 minutes unless you do that. And he just does it, dude. He goes for it. Goes for the kill or be killed. He just does it, dude. He has been submitted a couple times with the Oliveira fight, giving them some knocking him down and wobbling him about, and Habib hit him very hard, gets submitted, but still, he doesn't give up. I think he went out for Habib, and then he didn't go out for Oliveira. Either way, he'll die on a shield. He's a guy who dies on a shield, which is the most entertaining a guy could be. He is a modern-day gladiator. He is. So entertaining, so fun. And he's someone, again, he's not super technical, so they can sit from the couch and not really pay attention too much to Gaethje. Gaethje, some other fighters like Yan, you have to be 100% focused because he's going to do something crazy any second. Gaethje, he's going to be winging overhand, so he can eat, have popcorn, maybe eat some wings that you brought for the watch party, and then you look up and bam, he's swinging those overhand, stepping overhand. He's spamming the same combinations. He's in Mortal Kombat. He's in a fighting game where he's just spamming the same combinations, but they're fun combinations. He's in UFC 6 spamming triangles or spamming RBY, RBX. He just does it because it's fun. All right, so he's the second most entertaining male champion in UFC. These top 4 guys, if you see them on a pay-per-view card, main or co-main, you're going to have to that's where you introduce a casual to it, This is where you introduce a casual to it. They can have a bad co-main. It'll be fine. This guy, though, you know who I've saved for the most entertaining UFC champion is Joshua Van, dude. I've been rooting for this guy since Cody Durden. The legendary Cody Durden, his purple shorts, him wearing the Neymar mouth guard saying, hey, I need to get my flag. They won't let me use that flag. He uses that. You can use whatever flag you want, Joshua Van. Well, a couple flags, probably not. But, he wouldn't use it. Anyways, most entertaining guy, dude. Pure volume, round 1, it's going to be a little boring. Your friends, that's kind of the part of it. And he's also speaking trash now. I don't know if you saw his interview or his media day with Pantoja. But he started rage baiting Pantoja. Started rage baiting the kid. And that's how you get these old heads gone. These old head champions, you rage bait them. Van rage baited Pantoja. He's going to be coming for blood. Pantoja Van 2 is a redemption fight too. You can show him that quick fight. You can show him Pantoja breaking his arm, and you've shown him what Van's done in the meantime. Where Van, again, he's going to hype up the fight. You're going to be hyped up. He seemed to be better at media. They've maybe a little bit more media trained where he can kind of, say some trash talk and be a little swaggy. He's young too. He's 22, 21. I don't know. probably the same age as me somehow. He's gonna be a little swaggy, he's gonna be cool and hip. And then round one, your casual friend may go, "This guy's boring. What is he doing?" And he's just padding, maybe just pad. And then you go, "Just wait." And then halfway into round one, pop, pop, pop. He's moving. After halfway into round one, he is moving and he is going for it. Pop, pop, pop. Volume, intensity. He's timing well. He reads so quick and he reads so well against Sachiro Terra. He gets taken down. He's still working his way. He's not giving up on bottom for all of round one. He gets taken down in round one. What does he do? He works his way up. Even with a couple seconds left, he makes sure to use that energy just to get up and show Sachiro Terra, "You're not going to keep me down for this whole entire fight." Just to show you that he's not going to get kept down. He's going to stay up. He's going to go for it. He tries to submit Tatsuro Taira in round 3. Tries to submit him. Almost does it. He just doesn't have the hooks in. Doesn't have the body lock in. But he still goes for it. Why? Because he's that cool. He's that sick, dude. He may honestly submit Pantoja. UFC 331, I may choose a Pantoja Van submission by round 3. So like a round 3 rear naked choke. He just has Pantoja out cold. Rear naked chokes him out of pity. But this is the most entertaining UFC fighter currently, all right? He is entertaining, dude. Look at any fights. Brandon Royval on 2 weeks' notice with a broken toe. Goes to war, wins, looking like a good win, beat Kavanaugh. Tatsuro Taira beats him. He gets injured. Has to postpone it by 2 weeks. He comes back. He beats him. Demolishes him. TKOs him in the 5th. You look at Bruno Silva, his Bruno Silva fight before the Brandon Royval. He's peppering up. He's got Bruno Silva's nose red. In the 3rd round, he goes out for the finish. Look at his Edgar Shirez fight for UFC Noche. UFC 306 Noche. Again, where he's battering up against the cage. Body shots. He gets hit with the spinning back fist. He's injured. He's back. He's always in the fight. He's always there. He's pushing forward. He's going for the finish. And he does grapple too. He isn't just a one-sided thing now. Of course, we haven't seen him grapple against a Pantoja, against a Tatsuro Taira, but I wouldn't be surprised if he shoots a takedown on Manel Cap. Don't quote me on this. Do quote me on this. I wouldn't be surprised if he shoots a takedown on Manel Cap just to get it, get a different feeling. But Pantoja Van is the most entertaining male champion. He could be on a fight night card. You tell your friend you have to watch this. It's on a random. He could be on a China 2 a.m. card. You're getting your friend up at 2 in the morning to watch that whole card for the build-up to that Van fight, all right? It doesn't matter when he's fighting, where he's fighting. He is the most entertaining fighter. Maybe period. I know Yuri Prochazka has some claims, but Van, who's doing it at such a young age and such a highly skilled weight class, and he's still a small, like he's not a mutant. He's not like a Prates or a Michael Morales at welterweight where they're just mutant, long, gangly people who you're like, how are they making welterweight? Van is small for flyweight, and he's still putting on wars, putting on masterclasses, just so technically sound in the boxing, and he doesn't have the most power, but he still puts it on people, puts that mustard on people with timing. Timing is where he gets his power from. It's a beautiful thing to watch. If you are a casual, watch any Joshua Van fight. I guarantee you it's going to be a sick fight to watch. But yeah, that's the most and least entertaining UFC champions right now. This is kind of a guide. If you don't know who to introduce your friends to get them into MMA, and you're kind of wondering, who should I wait on? You get them to watch UFC 331, Pantoja Van, with the co-main of Rufi Arman Sarukian. That co-main could suck. It's gonna, guess what? It doesn't matter because Van's gonna fight right after that co-main event. I'd honestly prefer if they had that co-main event be a women's fight, because then, you get that women's fight, but then you get a Van fight right after, So, hope you all enjoyed. Don't be funny. Make some money. Buy the numbers. Live stream will be on tonight. I will be live streaming tonight. Hope to see y'all there. See you next time.